Worry, that constant nagging voice in your head, questioning every decision, every interaction, every possibility of failure. For most men, this internal dialogue can become crippling, preventing true progress and fulfillment. But have you ever noticed how certain men seem completely unbothered by the opinions and expectations that paralyze others? These are what we call Sigma males, men who operate on their own frequency, free from the mental chains that hold back the average person. In today's video, we're diving deep into the psychology behind what enables Sigma men to live worry-free while still achieving remarkable success. This isn't about toxic positivity or ignoring real problems. It's about a fundamental shift in mindset that separates high-value men from those constantly seeking external validation. Before we begin this journey into the Sigma mindset, I want you to consider how much mental energy you currently waste on unnecessary worries. How different would your life be if you could redirect that energy toward your purpose and personal evolution? If you're ready to transform your relationship with worry and step into your full potential as a man, hit that subscribe button right now. Our channel delivers actionable insights that have already changed the lives of thousands of men just like you. Men who are tired of living at the mercy of their anxieties and external pressures. Strategic solitude, the foundation of a Sigma. Male's worry-free existence begins with his relationship to solitude. Unlike the average man who fears being alone with his thoughts, the Sigma embraces strategic isolation as a superpower. This isn't about becoming antisocial. It's about recognizing that your mental clarity and internal compass can only be calibrated in the absence of constant external input. When you're constantly surrounded by others, you subconsciously adopt their fears, limitations, and perspectives. The Sigma man creates deliberate space between himself and the collective mindset, allowing him to distinguish between genuine concerns and societal programming. This separation is crucial because most worries that plague the modern man are simply reflections of other people's insecurities projected onto him. Consider how many of your current worries stem from comparing yourself to others or fearing judgment. A Sigma man understands that this mental cycle is a trap designed to keep you seeking approval rather than building your kingdom. By spending quality time alone, whether through meditation, solo travel, or simply turning off social media, you begin to recognize which thoughts actually belong to you and which have been implanted by external influences. Strategic solitude also provides the space needed to process emotions rather than react to them. When a challenging situation arises, the average man immediately seeks external validation or distraction. The Sigma takes time to sit with his emotions, understand their source, and consciously choose his response. This practice alone eliminates roughly 70% of the worries that consume most men's mental bandwidth. I've personally implemented a 24-hour rule where any major decision or emotional reaction must wait for a full day of reflection. This simple practice has prevented countless unnecessary worries from taking root in my mind. Your ability to be comfortable in solitude is directly proportional to your immunity to needless anxiety. The abundance mindset. The second key to the Sigma male's freedom from worry lies in his unshakable abundance mindset. Most men operate from a scarcity perspective, believing there's never enough time, money, opportunities, or potential partners. This scarcity thinking is the breeding ground for chronic worry, creating a desperate approach to every aspect of life. Sigma men recognize a fundamental truth. Worry stems from the illusion of control. When you believe resources are limited, you desperately try to control outcomes, leading to constant anxiety about potential loss. The abundant mindset recognizes that the universe operates in cycles of expansion. There are always more opportunities, more chances, and more paths to success than your limited perspective can perceive. This doesn't mean Sigma men ignore practical reality. Rather, they understand that worrying about potential scarcity actually attracts that very experience. When you focus your mental energy on what might go wrong, you miss the countless opportunities passing right in front of you. The Sigma male invests his mental resources in spotting advantages rather than anticipating disasters. Consider how this plays out in relationships. The average man worries constantly about losing a particular woman, being rejected, or running out of dating prospects. This anxiety creates needy behavior that repels high-quality partners. The Sigma, operating from abundance, knows that his value isn't determined by any single relationship, freeing him to show up authentically without the desperation that stems from scarcity thinking. I've seen this transformation in countless men who've adopted the Sigma philosophy. One subscriber shared how shifting from scarcity to abundance completely eliminated his social anxiety. Instead of seeing each interaction as a high-stakes performance, where rejection meant total failure, he began viewing social connections as abundant opportunities to exchange value. His worry vanished not through techniques or affirmations, but through a fundamental shift in perspective. Purpose-driven decision-making. The third element that separates Sigma men from chronic worriers is their commitment to purpose-driven decision-making. Most men make choices based on immediate comfort, social approval, or avoidance of discomfort. These reactive decision patterns create a perpetual state of worry, since they're not anchored to anything larger than momentary concerns. A Sigma male organizes his life around a central purpose, whether that's building a legacy, mastering a craft, or creating positive impact. When your decisions are filtered through the lens of purpose, the trivial worries that consume most men simply fade into irrelevance. Purpose acts as a North Star, simplifying complex choices by measuring them against a single standard. Does this serve my mission? This clarity eliminates the decision fatigue and second-guessing that plague the average man. Think about how much mental energy you waste questioning past decisions or worrying about future ones. The purpose-driven Sigma makes a choice aligned with his mission, executes without hesitation, and redirects that mental energy toward productive action rather than circular worry. This approach transforms how you handle life's inevitable challenges. When faced with setbacks, most men spiral into worry about what went wrong and how others will perceive their failure. The Sigma simply asks, "What can I learn from this that serves my purpose?" This reframing converts potential anxiety into useful data, maintaining momentum where others become paralyzed. I witnessed this transformation in a client who built a 7-figure business after years of entrepreneurial anxiety. His breakthrough came not from business tactics, but from defining a purpose larger than himself. Once his decisions were anchored to serving his community rather than proving his worth, the worries that had sabotaged his previous ventures disappeared. Purpose doesn't eliminate problems. It makes them irrelevant in comparison to what you're building. Emotional detachment as a superpower. The fourth critical quality that enables Sigma men to transcend worry is their mastery of emotional detachment. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of the Sigma personality. Emotional detachment doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It means developing the ability to observe your emotions without being controlled by them. Most men are completely identified with their emotional states. When anxiety, fear, or insecurity arises, they become these emotions, leading to reactive behavior and mental suffering. The Sigma has cultivated the observer's perspective. He experiences emotions as temporary weather patterns passing through his consciousness rather than defining his identity. This detachment creates space between stimulus and response. When criticized, rejected, or challenged, the average man immediately reacts from wounded emotions, creating a cascade of worry about his worthiness or standing. The Sigma witnesses the emotional response without judgment, asks what information it provides, and chooses his next move strategically rather than reactively. This practice of emotional detachment becomes particularly powerful in high-pressure situations where most men become consumed by anxiety. Whether negotiating a business deal, approaching an attractive woman, or facing a personal setback, the Sigma's ability to separate his worth from momentary emotions keeps him centered where others crumble. One powerful technique I teach is the emotional step back. When you feel worry or anxiety arising, imagine physically stepping back from your thoughts and observing them as if they belong to someone else. Ask yourself, what would I advise this person feeling these emotions? This simple pattern interrupt prevents worry from hijacking your rational mind and transforms emotional triggers into opportunities for deeper self-knowledge. 5. Creating value instead of seeking validation. The fifth distinguishing characteristic of worry-free Sigma men is their unwavering focus on creating value rather than seeking validation. Most men's worries stem from a fundamental insecurity about their worth, leading to constant concern about how others perceive them. This validation-seeking mentality creates a perpetual state of anxiety, since your sense of self remains externally defined. The Sigma male has inverted this equation entirely. Rather than asking, "What will people think of me?" he asks, "What genuine value can I contribute?" This shift transforms his relationship with worry at the root level. When your focus is on creation and contribution, the opinions and judgments that paralyze most men become irrelevant background noise. This value-oriented mindset manifests across all domains of life. In work, the average man worries about recognition, promotion, and comparison with colleagues. The Sigma concentrates solely on the quality of his output and its impact, knowing that genuine value inevitably attracts the right opportunities. In relationships, rather than worrying about approval, he focuses on the authentic connection and growth he brings to interactions. The beauty of this approach is that it creates a virtuous cycle. The more you focus on contribution over validation, the more genuine confidence you develop, which naturally attracts positive recognition. Meanwhile, those trapped in validation-seeking become increasingly insecure despite whatever external approval they receive. I've implemented this shift by establishing a daily practice of asking, "What value did I create today?" rather than "What did I achieve?" or "How was I perceived?" This simple reframing has eliminated countless worries about status and external validation, redirecting that energy toward meaningful creation. Your worth becomes self-generated rather than dependent on the fickle opinions of others. The power of silent confidence. The sixth element that enables Sigma men to live relatively worry-free is their cultivation of silent confidence. The unshakable self-assurance that requires no external display or validation. Most men's worries stem from insecurity, leading them to constantly prove their worth through conspicuous consumption, social media validation, or dominating conversations. The Sigma has transcended this need for external proof. His confidence flows from self-knowledge, competence, and alignment with his values, rather than others' perceptions. This internal anchoring eliminates the constant worry about maintaining appearances or measuring up to arbitrary standards that plague status-oriented men. Silent confidence manifests as a calm, measured presence that draws others in rather than demanding attention. The Sigma doesn't feel compelled to fill every silence, prove his intelligence in every conversation, or demonstrate his status through possessions or name-dropping. This freedom from performative behavior eliminates the anxiety of constantly being on stage. This quality becomes particularly evident in how Sigma men handle criticism. While the average man worries endlessly about negative feedback, either becoming defensive or seeking reassurance, the Sigma evaluates criticism purely on its merits. He can discard useless opinions without emotional reaction and implement valuable feedback without feeling diminished by it. One practical approach I found effective is the praise and criticism journal, documenting both positive and negative feedback, then reviewing it dispassionately for patterns and actionable insights. This practice depersonalizes the emotional sting of criticism and prevents the ego inflation of praise, both of which fuel unnecessary worry about how you're perceived. Mastering the inner voice. The seventh, and perhaps most transformative quality that frees Sigma men from chronic worry is their mastery of the inner voice. Every man has an internal dialogue constantly narrating his experience, but the nature and tone of this voice determines whether it generates worry or wisdom. For most men, the inner voice serves as a harsh critic, catastrophic forecaster, and unreliable narrator, constantly predicting failure and rejection. The Sigma has done the deep work of reprogramming this internal dialogue from adversary to ally. He's recognized that the voice in his head is simply a tool that can be calibrated to serve rather than sabotage his growth. This mastery begins with awareness. The Sigma has developed the ability to catch negative thought patterns before they spiral into full-blown worry. When his inner voice begins catastrophizing, he interrupts the pattern with questions like, "Is this objectively true?" or "What evidence contradicts this fear?" This pattern interruption prevents the snowballing effect that turns momentary concerns into consuming anxiety. Beyond awareness, the Sigma actively trains his inner voice toward strategic optimism, not blind positivity, but a solution-focused orientation that asks, "How can I handle this effectively?" rather than, "Why does this always happen to me?" This reframing transforms potential worries into actionable challenges that energize rather than deplete. Perhaps most importantly, the Sigma has developed a compassionate relationship with his inner dialogue. Where most men's inner critics are punishing and perfectionistic, creating constant worry about measuring up, the Sigma's inner voice operates more like a wise mentor, challenging without condemning, honest without being harsh. One powerful practice is the mentor voice technique. When facing a challenge that triggers worry, imagine how a wise mentor who truly believes in your potential would advise you. This simple shift in perspective can transform debilitating anxiety into clear, actionable guidance. As we've explored throughout this video, the Sigma male's freedom from worry isn't about ignoring reality or suppressing emotions. It's about developing a fundamentally different relationship with uncertainty, challenge, and self-worth. These 7 qualities, strategic solitude, abundance mindset, purpose-driven decision-making, emotional detachment, value creation, silent confidence, and mastery of the inner voice, create a psychological infrastructure that naturally dissolves the worries that consume most men's potential. The path to becoming worry-free isn't about adding more techniques or strategies to your life. It's about removing the mental patterns that generate unnecessary anxiety in the first place. As you integrate these Sigma principles, you'll find yourself not trying to manage worry, but experiencing its natural dissolution as your perspective fundamentally shifts. If this approach resonates with you, if you're tired of the constant mental chatter and ready to redirect that energy toward building your legacy, I invite you to join our community by subscribing now. Unlike channels that offer quick fixes and surface-level advice, We're committed to the deep transformation that creates lasting freedom from the worries holding you back. The Sigma path isn't always the easiest, but for men called to something greater than ordinary existence, it's the only way forward. Subscribe now and take the first step toward the worry-free, purpose-driven life you were designed to live.